A few weeks ago, Brenda showed you our anything but green garden. And today I just wanted to do a follow-up and talk a little bit more about the garden, a little bit more about the design, and highlight a few of the plants. Well, the anything but green garden is made up of plants whose leaves have colors other than green. And as you gaze across this garden, you see just a multitude of color. And it's interesting because the color is not from flowers. The bulk of the color is from leaves and stems of these plants. So you don't have to have flowers to have color. And here in Oklahoma, where it gets really hot in the summertime, color from leaves and stems is more dependable than color from flowers. It actually takes less energy for the plant to produce leaves than it does to keep producing flowers over and over. And also the plants have grown in the springtime when it's cooler and already produced a lot of leaves, so they don't have to keep growing those. They just maintain what they have. Well, in the design of this garden, we wanted to create a contrast from plant to plant. We wanted distinct color differences as you move through the garden. And this highlights each plant, and it's kind of displayed by itself in the design as opposed to a blending of colors. Well, in some cases we used plants that were opposite each other on the color wheel. And when you use a lot of colors like this in a design, you have to do a lot of thinking and preparing beforehand, or all the colors can look jumbled or kind of give you a busy look. So if you think about it beforehand, that will help a lot. And another thing that we used are these silver plants placed strategically here and there through the garden. And the white colors or silver colors, and to some extent the light yellows, seem to unify all the different colors. They bring about a sense of harmony. Well, speaking of colors that are opposite each other on the color wheel, purple and yellow is a classic example, and we've got the combination here with the golden moneywort, and right back here with the Persian shield. Now, the Persian shield is probably one of the most asked about plants in our garden, and with colors like this in the leaves, who needs flowers? It's attractive enough without flowering. Beside the Persian shield, we have one of the silver plants I was speaking about, and that is the quicksilver plectranthus. This is a plant from Australia that we had in our silver garden last year, and we had it out in full sun and it performed quite well for us. We've also grown this plant in quite a bit of shade where it does okay also. It's in the mint family and it's closely related to coleus, so it has flowers that are similar, and they're not that showy, so we like to keep these pinched off. The Persian shield is going to need some shade part of the day. It can actually grow in quite a bit of shade, but I think the best location for this plant is a spot where it gets morning sun and then it's shaded from like noon on. The gold moneywort can grow in sun or shade, but if you put it in the shade, it tends to turn green and lose its gold color. This massive red color in front here is a waxleaf begonia, and you can see this plant does have quite a few flowers, but the foliage is this beautiful bronze reddish color. This is the cultivar vodka, and the bronze in the leaves give you a hint that it can grow out in the sun. As a general rule, begonias with green leaves you'll want to put in the shade, and if they have bronze leaves, they can grow out in the sun. Now, begonias like a well-drained soil that is rich in organic matter. A garden of foliage plants just wouldn't be complete without a few coleus. And right back here, this is one of my favorite sun coleus. This is Alabama Sunset. Can grow in quite a bit of sun, probably also one that's happiest with a little afternoon shade, but you get this beautiful combination of pink and yellow in the leaves. As we move on around the bed, we have an interesting plant right here, and this is the beefsteak plant or chicken gizzard plant. Very colorful. The leaves and the markings within the leaves, the veins are a different color, and the stems are this bright pink also. So you get a lot of color from this beefsteak or chicken gizzard plant. Now, designing this bed presented a little bit of a challenge because it kind of moves from the sun to the shade, and we had to select plants that could provide us with a little bit of versatility. And back here in the deepest part of the shade, we have another coleus. And this is one of the shade coleus. These have been around for a number of years, and this one's from the Wizard series. We just selected one color out of that series and made a mass of it back here under the shade. And I think a lot of people forget about the shade coleus when they're designing their shade gardens. Another plant to provide foliage color that some people may not think about is leaf lettuce. This is just a red leaf lettuce that's looked wonderful for us all through the spring. This is the cultivar Galactic. And you can see here that it's starting to bolt a little bit now that it's warming up. And what we'll do as it gets hot, because this will start to die on us, we're going to pull it up and we're going to replace the color in this area with caladiums, which will handle the heat a lot better. Right back here we have a hardy grass. This is golden Japanese forest grass, and this creates very light color for the shade, and the soft mounding leaves also give a great textural effect to this garden. Well, as we move on across the garden, I want to show you a fairly new plant back here by our Post Castle Artemisia. And the one I want to show you is this chocolate character plant. And this is a fairly new plant to the horticulture industry. And this one is being promoted by the people down at the University of Georgia. But outstanding foliage plant that's probably going to perform better with a little afternoon shade as well. But interesting combination of colors in those leaves. To provide some foliage interest, we use some Metallica taros. And this is like a dark olive green elephant ear and has beautiful color below the leaves and the stems as well. But we look for these leaves to get a lot bigger as the summer continues. And then another interesting foliage plant is this canna in the back here. This is the cultivar Australia, and those are perhaps the darkest leaves I've seen on a canna. But you get the beautiful dark leaves, and then as a bonus, you get those bright red flowers on the top. Back here on the other side of these cannas, we have a combination of plants that is really working well for us this year. And that is the use of this margarita ornamental sweet potato coupled with the red ruffles coleus. You get a very distinct change in color or contrast between these two plants. Well, when you're designing your gardens for next year, don't just think about flowers. Try to remember all these wonderful foliage plants and have fun coming up with all the new color combinations.
We hope you've enjoyed this classic from the Oklahoma Gardening Vault. Remember, even though these tips and techniques are timeless, there's always something new to learn in the world of gardening. By subscribing to both Oklahoma Gardening and OK Gardening Classics, you'll have access to a wealth of gardening knowledge, both classic and contemporary.